Okay, we're ready, Atul.
Yep, yep.
Good morning, friends. Welcome to our weekly podcast. So we are continuing reading the book, the summary of the book, Daring Greatly, how the courage to be vulnerable transforms the way we live, love, parent, and lead. We are on chapter 6, Disruptive Engagement, Daring to Dehumanize Education and Work. Absence of creativity, absence of innovation, absence of learning equal to disengagement. Reigniting creativity, reigniting innovation, and reigniting learning is equal to disruptive engagement. Disruptive engagement is working to reignite creativity, innovation, and learning. How do we do this? We rehumanize education and work. It is not an easy task. It requires strong and courageous leaders who are willing to put people back in the center of the equation. It is about being willing to have open and honest conversations about vulnerability and shame. Ways to rehumanize education and work. First, combat shame. Shame can only rise so far in any system before people disengage to protect themselves. When we are disengaged, we don't show up, we don't contribute, and we stop caring. Eliminate blame. Blame is simply the discharging of pain and discomfort. Comfort. We blame when we are uncomfortable and experience pain, when we are vulnerable, angry, hurt, in shame, or grieving. Engage in feedback. Without feedback, there can be no transformative change. When we don't talk to the people we are leading about their strengths and their opportunities for growth, they being to question their contribution and commitment, disengagement follows. Chapter 7, Wholeheartedly Parenting, Daring to be the adults we want our children to be. Who we are and how we engage with the world are much stronger predictors of how our children will do than what we know about parenting. In terms of teaching our children to dare greatly in the never enough culture, the question isn't so much are you parenting the right way as it is are you the adult you want your child to grow up to be? The wholehearted parenting manifesto. Above all else, I want you to know that you are loved and lovable. You will learn this from my words and action. The lessons on love are in how I treat you and how I treat myself. I want to engage with the world from a place of worthiness. You will learn that you are worthy of love, belonging, and joy every time you see me practice self compassion and embrace my own imperfections. We will practice courage in our family by showing up, letting ourselves be seen, and honoring vulnerability. We will share our stories of struggle and strength. There will be always be a room in our home for both. We will teach you compassion by practicing com-
Compassion.
compassion. Okay, compassion
Yeah.
with ourselves first, then with each other. We will set and respect boundaries. We will honor hard work, hope, and perseverance. Rest and play will be family values as well as family practices. You will learn accountability and respect by watching me make mistakes and make amends, and by watching how I ask for what I need and talk about how I feel. I want you to know joy, so together we will practice gratitude. I want you to feel joy, so together we will learn how to be vulnerable. When uncertainty and scarcity visit, you will be able to draw from the spirit that it is a part of our everyday life. Together, we will cry and face fear and grief. I will want to take away your pain, but instead, I will sit with you and teach you how to feel it. We will laugh and sing and dance and create. We'll always have permission to ourselves with each other. No matter what, you will always belong here. As you begin our wholehearted journey, the greatest gift that I can give to you is live and love with my whole heart and to bear guilty. I will not teach or love or show you anything perfectly, but I will let you see me, and I will always have sacred gift of seeing you, truly daily seeing you. From Bearing Italy by Vinila. I'll stop here. Do you want to go next, Wendy?
Daring greatly is not about. Oh, I hear an echo. Oh, daring greatly is not about winning or losing. It's about courage. In a world where scarcity and shame dominate and feeling afraid has become second nature, vulnerability is subversive. It's even a little dangerous at times. And without question, putting ourselves out there means there's a far greater risk of feeling hurt. But as I look back at my own life and what daring greatly has meant to me, I can only honestly say that nothing is as uncomfortable, dangerous, and hurtful as believing that I'm standing on the outside of my life, looking in and wondering what it would be like if I had the courage to show up and let myself be seen. Brene Brown. All right, I'll stop here.
Oh, Wendy, you can go ahead and finish if you like.
All right. Critical evaluation. Daring greatly is a transformative read. There really is no other way to put it. Your view of yourself, of your profession, and of your family will come out dramatically changed through the reading of this book. Brene Brown pushes her readers to look inside of themselves and see honestly, likely for the first time, the challenging topics that show up in their daily lives. The exploration of self, the practice of leaning further inward, and the understanding that powerful things await us on the other side is one of the great positives of this book. This book is a journey. It could be read and reread in order to gain further insights and move your journey along one step at a time. While the topics and concepts addressed are ones that challenge the status quo of our interactions with not only ourselves but also those around us, it is presented in a way that makes it feel achievable. Brown writes as though she is having a personal conversation with you. She is honest about her own shortcomings, shares powerful and at times challenging learning experiences with her readers, and helps you to see that she is, at the end of the day, on the same journey as us. She's relatable and honest, and her integrity shines through in each chapter of Daring Greatly. I would recommend anyone and everyone buy this book. Don't borrow it from the library to read on the weekend. Trust me, you'll want your own copy. You'll be making notes in the margins. A little time to think. What does vulnerability look like to you? Vulnerability is whatever. What are some things you would do if you were not afraid to be seen? It is important to have real people in the room with you. People who have earned the right to hear your story. Who are you? Your people. Brene Brown says, you're only as sick as your secrets. What secrets are you keeping because you feel vulnerable? What are some ways you could work through the practice of gratitude into your life? Personally, professionally? That's it.
Okay, great. Atu,
Yeah.
you want to start the discussion?
We can start discussion. Yeah, I mean, we can close this today, and probably next week we can start something.
Oh, did you want to read the other book that you suggested, which is the soul thing? What was it called?
Untethered Soul: The Journey Beyond Yourself.
Yeah, the untethered. We can start that.
Okay. Yeah, sure. But yeah, I was thinking like if I don't know if everyone agrees for this one or not, so I was not sure. But individually, like we can make a call. We can go.
Okay.
We can have introduction, like or uh, or we can start next week.
Oh, yeah, let's start next week. It's 9:40. It's
Yeah.
9:38. So we'll just talk a little bit and
all right.
do commitments. I think that's good time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I lost a bit of time when I had to reinitiate the session. So. This is good. Yeah.
All right.
So I mean, I mean, from the summary for 6.1, I like few things how she put the wholehearted parenting manifesto. Um, at least the top 2 or 3 things were very, I mean, kind of really eye-opening kind of thing, like uh, not telling that have pain. Yeah, I mean, I will not remove the pain, but I'll be a part of it. Also, courage, practicing courage. So something I think mostly it's more about feelings, joy and gratitude, and uh, which we have read, but every time we don't look at parenting from this perspective. Like we always, as adult, we are great, and we are we are going to tell kids how to be great, and without actually we being anything greater. I mean, for example, we do fight, we do yell at home, and we tell
It's
them,
only
oh,
natural.
yeah, and we tell them don't yell, be nice, be kind, and it's just like yeah. But this is like kind of more introspection, which I see. Like uh, if you do something, yeah. For example, if I'm on cell phone day in and day out, my kid will be on cell phone because he sees me on cell phone day in and day out. So this and we don't realize that, and we tell them like, oh, you can't use cell phone or you can't watch TV and all. So and we if we want we indulge in TV and other stuff. So kind of this reading this actually sometimes, I mean, this make me like, okay, if I practice something, let me practice that what I can tell him. Like for example, I'm reading books, so you can also read the book because I also read the book kind of indirectly. But yeah, that's my thought on this one. But I like few things. I want to basically I can take a printout of it and keep it just for my record. Uh, uh, yeah, that's from my side. You want to go next, Wendy?
It's funny because when as we were reading this, the word vulnerable seemed to come up a lot, and people like me, for some reason, are seen as or talked about as being vulnerable because I don't some of it I don't get. I think it's a lot of it's assumption that people see somebody in a wheelchair and they just assume the person can't do anything for themselves. And the brain isn't working, nothing's working, and that's just wrong. And my aide is that way. She thinks because well, it's not just because I'm in a wheelchair, it's because I'm not the 5 foot tall, unfortunately. I'm like 4'8", which doesn't help me. But to people see me and think they think I look like a little kid, which I'm not. And that's frustrating. But back to the vulnerability. A lot of us get tired of that, being seen like that, vulnerable and helpless. And okay, that's it.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I think I make when I started reading all this vulnerability stuff, I had a whole problem with the word what does vulnerability mean. So there's to me vulnerable. It's interesting. Wendy added this other definition for me. For me, usually people think of vulnerability as fragile. The other aspect of vulnerability is susceptible to harm. Like when Wendy said, I'm vulnerable to this or that, it's susceptible to harm. To me, that's closer to fragility But the feeling, the sense that what Brene Brown is talking about vulnerability is sensitivity.
Mm-hmm.
And sensitivity, actually, it's a sword that cuts both ways. Because sensitivity means you feel it in terms of feeling perspective or even measurement in scientific measurements, means you can measure a more subtle change of state. So if you're more sensitive, you actually have more response time. So for someone who is vulnerable, because society, I'm just coming up with these ideas. I mean, I have some base pieces, but this whole, what I'm talking about is fairly new, is society doesn't respect sensitivity, because if someone feels something, the first reaction is, like you said, parenting the child is telling the child to toughen up. Right, tough love kind of thing. So if a child's feeling is hurt, as a parent's first reaction is, you gotta be tough to engage in this world. And I think that vulnerability is addressing that sensitivity skillfully. So what she is saying is that if you don't respect someone's sensitivity or feelings, like if they're feeling afraid or sad, or disrespected, then they shut down. That's where disengagement comes in. So what she is doing is saying that if you really want your child, in the case of parenting manifesto, or how you treat yourself, or treat your colleagues, or your boss, or your subordinates, is if you treat them in a way that doesn't respect their sensitive feelings, i.e. their vulnerable feelings, then they'll disengage. So in order for someone to be truly creative, to be innovative, and to be capable of learning, they have to feel safe. And in order to feel safe, then you have to have more sensitive tuning instruments, if you will, to their feelings. And you have to somehow respect them. And so there's a basket of tools that help us to feel safe so that we could be engaging in the world creatively, innovatively, and learning, being capable of learning. And that is things like joy, gratitude, respect for self and others. And then she talks about hurt and harm. So in Buddha's teaching, there's a very big difference between hurt and harm. So they don't say do no hurt, they say do no harm. Because sometimes life is tough and you have to feel the pain. You have to be endured. That's what endurance is. But you don't have to hurt. You don't have to be harmed. Similarly, when you work with your colleagues or your staff, sometimes working through a tough program, debugging a tough program is hurtful. Your ego's on the line. You've done something wrong, but you can't find it, right? But it doesn't have to be harmful. The same thing with someone coming to you. You can sit with them with the pain of the frustration of solving a seemingly unsolvable problem. That's hurtful, that's frustrating, that's intolerable, but you don't have to disrespect them and harm them. So vulnerability is the pivot where we can be skillful. We can be respectful of other people's hurts and other people's sensitivities, and then be skillful in navigating that so they can actually become stronger. So in that case, if I think, for example, is Wendy is vulnerable to me disrespecting her, I'll just have to be more careful not to do that. And the way I do that is by asking questions. Even if I make a statement, I come back and say, is that true? To me, that opens up the framework of questions and new opportunities to come in. So it was very interesting, this idea of vulnerability.
Yeah, the other thing, the problem is like you show that you are vulnerable and people exploit it. Like they will,
Well,
they will
I would say that if you show you're fragile, people will exploit it. But if you show that you're sensitive and that you're skillful in manipulating your sensitivity, then people will respect that. And actually, there was something I was reading on VideoTube where somebody saying somebody like one of the big guys like Google or Amazon was showing their new complex, and I think that was fake, but they were being interviewed, and the founder, the person who was showing the building was found. He kept on saying, "Oh, but I did this wrong. I did that wrong." I don't think that's sincere, but he was trying to show his vulnerabilities. So I think honesty and sincerity is part of it. But if for example, if I'm debugging a program and I'm a terrible programmer, so I do get stuck. So for me to go to my friend and say I'm stuck, I'm showing my vulnerability. But she doesn't disrespect me because I have the courage to ask for help rather than hiding that the program doesn't work,
Right.
until 2 weeks later or a month later, and then I get caught anyways. So I don't think that you have to show your vulnerability and people will take advantage of you if you have basket skills to support yourself, such as self-respect, knowing who is safe to ask. You don't ask people who's very aggressive and mean, or they're going to take advantage of you. You create friendships and relationships that you feel safe to ask. I would not say that you should air your dirty laundry everywhere. That's not skillful. That's unskillful. That's ignorant.
see. No, okay. Okay. We'll move to our next session, commitment.
Okay.
So for me, definitely this week, one thing is for sure that I'm going to go to yoga or gym. I have to continue that. Another part is I'm also playing cricket. That has been going good. So almost every Saturday for the last few months, we are going for cricket. I don't know how the weather will be there for next weeks or something, but we are planning to play as long as we can. Um, then from reading perspective, I'm still reading about some AWS and other stuff. We have some training going on in the company for Scrum related stuff. So it's going to be a busy week next week. Um, yes, just like there are a bunch of events like social gatherings that are coming up. This weekend we have a birthday to attend. So it's going to be busy weekend as well as next week. There is some festival called Navratri, which is like Indian music. They will come and then they will play something called as dandiya. So the one art which like the one dance with we have two sticks and then we make some noise and there are some moves we move. It's
Sounds great.
yeah, it's I will share you that link, but it's called Garba. It's a 9-day activity. It's worshipping some goddess Durga, and then yeah, for 9 days, people every night come join in India at least, and they will have all this dancing and whole night activity. So here there are a few places like Cry and other organization organize these activities, and generally me and my wife and all our friends they will go and participate in Zambia.
Wow.
That's for myself. You have to go next, Julie.
Okay, so last week I read the Medicare booklet and we started taking the watercoloring class. So this week I'm going to read this book. It's been recommended to me, From Fatigue to Fabulous. And also I'm supposed to, I asked for appointments with 2 doctors, and they said sometime in October. So I'll check up on when the appointment is, because my mouth is still having a problem, and I have some chronic issues I like to look at. And I'm going to write. I'm doing a facilitation this Tuesday on sound meditation. So I'm going to write a little cheat sheet of 1 sheet or 2 or 3 sheets on sound meditation for the people who attend. I'm going to call it a booklet, just for lack of a better word. I don't want to call it a sheet. So that's why I'll do this way. Oh, of course, I will be very nice to my husband. And he had a tooth extracted, so it was he's going to just need special attention to food and things like that. So we'll do that. That's my week's goals.
Me, just keep up with yoga, exercise. Coloring is this week. And I think that's it. And then my reading. That's it.
Okay. Perfect timing.
Awesome.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next week.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend, Wendy.
You too. Everybody have a good week.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
I go.